Can you imagine a world without Disney? The company almost completely vanished in the early 1940s, but then one eventually classic film saved the day. In 1937, Walt Disney blew everyone away with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was the first ever feature-length animated movie produced in the United States, and it made $7.8 million worldwide at the box office, which is more than $100 million today. And off that success, Disney started spending. He greenlit multiple animated features, and built a super expensive new studio in Burbank 4 times bigger than the previous one. But as the 1930s rolled over into the 1940s, things went south for Disney. Pinocchio cost $2.3 million to make, but grossed under $2 million. The studio construction costs were piling up, and then Fantasia, which also cost $2.3 million, did even worse than Pinocchio. A big problem was by then World War II had started and the international box office had dried up. So at that time, the company took 2 measures to get more cash. It went public and sold off 155,000 shares to raise $4 million, and it increased its credit line. But the losses were too large, and by 1941, the company was nearly $3 million in debt. Bank of America was breathing down Walt's neck, demanding it cut costs. A year after its IPO, the stock had fallen from $25 a share to $4, and then the Disney animators went on strike, seeking higher pay, better overtime compensation, and a uniform system for determining job titles and screen credits, all of which are fair and they deserved. But Walt himself didn't see this strike coming and said the entire situation is a catastrophe. And so to get by, Disney volunteered the company make propaganda shorts for the US government. And it also managed to eke out some profits on Dumbo and Bambi. But then the studio stopped making expensive feature-length animated movies for the rest of the 1940s. Unfortunately, its debts remained. By 1947, Disney was $4 million in debt and on the verge of bankruptcy. So, at the end of the decade, Walt decided to go back to basics and iterate on what worked in the past. Animated features based on known properties. Which sounds a lot like today. So he put Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan into production, with Cinderella coming first because of its similarities to Snow White. The princess movie cost just as much as Disney's previous animated features, which meant a lot was riding on its success, but as we know today, the plan worked, and Cinderella was a huge hit at the box office, which finally saved Disney from a decade of turmoil and led to a number of prosperous decades. Until shit hit the fan again in the 1970s, but that's another video entirely.